Thanks to this last summer, we now have a great outlook into the future of the MCU. So let's go over everything we know is coming, what I think is going to happen, and how much bigger the MCU is about to get in the next decade. So let's get into that. So one thing is very clear going forward with the MCU, the TV side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe under Kevin Feige is about to become as important as the films. Now, of course, with Kevin Feige being in charge of everything Marvel now, this means we're going to talk about literally everything that's coming, so let's get into it. So the first thing we know is that 2020 is really the last year we're going to have any room to breathe, because we're going to get literally bombarded with content once the summer of 2020 hits. Going into 2021, it's going to be an absolutely wild ride. May 1st of 2020, we'll see the release of Black Widow. This, of course, is a prequel to Avengers Infinity War, thus being a sequel to Civil War. This, of course, is going to chronicle the story of what Natasha was doing between those two films. And it sounds like they have the idea to franchise this into multiple sequels, so we'll see how that goes. After that, the summer is more or less going to be dry, but in the fall of 2020, we have Marvel Studios' first live-action TV series, which will be The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This, of course, will see Sebastian Stan back as the Winter Soldier and Anthony Mackie back as Falcon, aka the new Captain America, and it's going to deal with him trying to not want to take on the mantle, but of course, the world needing a brand new Captain America. It will see the villain Baron Zemo also return. And right as we're coming to the end of that first season, we're going into November 6th of 2020, which will see a brand new franchise starter for Marvel Studios, which will be the Eternals. Now, the Eternals are going to span the entire existence of the universe, from the very beginning to, as far as we know, right around where Endgame is. And it's going to chronicle the rise of the Eternals, who have a pretty significant tie into everything that's coming out, such as vampires, mutants, and much more. Now that we had a little bit of time to kind of wind down from 2020, 2021 is really where everything goes absolutely unhinged. Also, as a bonus in 2020, no idea if this will be out, we have Fox's New Mutants, which at the time of this recording is still apparently on schedule. Things could change at the flip of a coin. Who knows if this film's ever going to see the light of day, but it's a Marvel film. It might be in the MCU, it might not, nobody knows. Millions of rumors, we'll find out, maybe. Okay, so with that behind us, I didn't need to mention it, but let's get into 2021. First up, on February 12th of 2021, we get Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, of course, the Ten Rings have been in the MCU for a while, and this film will focus on Shang-Chi and his father, the Mandarin. This being the real Mandarin, which we haven't seen in the MCU so far. Shang-Chi is, of course, a martial artist, and look for them to highlight that aspect of him. After that, in the spring of 2021, we get another Disney Plus TV series. This time, we're getting WandaVision. This one is going to focus on Wanda Maximoff, of course going full Scarlet Witch, with the co-star Vision back from the dead. We know that this is going to be a reality-bending series that's going to alter the MCU in some way, shape, and form. And it will do so because it will be a direct lead-in to May 7th of 2021, which will give us Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness. Now, the Multiverse of Madness will of course include Wanda and will spin off from her show and tie directly into it. Now, why she's joining this, why she's going to be going onto this journey to the multiverse with Doctor Strange still remains to be seen, and I'm assuming that's going to be something that's kept very secretive, but of course expect a few notable characters from the MCU to also make appearances in this, such as Wong and possibly even a few characters we thought were gone that can show up in the multiverse. Following the release of Doctor Strange, we're going to go into Loki on Disney Plus. Tom Hiddleston will be back as Loki. This will be live action and will follow the Loki we saw in Avengers Endgame, who escapes from the timeline in the Avengers. It will chronicle his adventures through his own multiverse, so you're probably sensing a pattern of how these three projects are going to tie together. Following that, we're going to have just a few weeks of breathing room because on July 1st of 2021, we are getting the third Marvel Studios Spider-Man film. This will be a joint venture once again between Sony and of course Marvel Studios, and will deal with the fallout of Spider-Man's identity being revealed to the world in Spider-Man Far From Home. Many are under the speculation, and there's been plenty of teases, that this film will see the Sinister Six assemble to take on the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Along with Spider-Man 3, summer of 2021, we'll see the series of What If kick off. This will be Marvel Studios' first animated series, and it is directly connected into the MCU. It will have one episode based on each film, and will explore certain what-if scenarios that could affect the MCU in a certain way. Once again, I'm assuming that this will tie directly into the Multiverse of Madness and span out from that, which is why it's positioned to come out after 3 shows deal with the multiverse. And once that is still running on a weekly basis, in fall of 2021, we are going to get Hawkeye. Now this one is rather interesting, as Jeremy Renner will be back, but he's not back as the character of Hawkeye. He will instead be playing the character of Ronan, who we saw in Avengers Endgame, and the Hawkeye mantle will be taken by Kate Bishop. Of course, this is more or less mirroring what happened in the comics this decade, so it should be interesting to see how they pass the mantle as they start assembling a new younger team of future heroes. And finally, to wrap up 2021, on November 5th, right as Hawkeye is going to be winding down, we get Thor: Love and Thunder. Now this is a big one. Not only is Marvel breaking the mold of the trilogy for solo heroes, which they said they wouldn't do, Taika Waititi is back, and we're not getting just one Thor. Thor Odin's son will be back, played by Chris Hemsworth, but Natalie Portman is once again returning to the MCU, and she will be playing Thor, aka Jane Foster, as Thor. We also know a few characters from the previous films will be back as well, and this film is looking to pick up with Thor going in a whole new direction. So that's it for 2021. Now looking into 2022, there's quite a few announcements. This is going to tie 2021 for an absolutely insane year. First up, on February 18th, we have an unknown film. Now a film that was announced by Marvel Studios but doesn't have a date happens to be Blade. Me personally, I think this is exactly where Blade is going to go. It would make sense if you look at the success of the original Black Panther. That February date, plus the synergy with the month, especially in the United States, everything here makes sense to me. They already have a Blade actor. This would be a cheaper film to produce compared to all the other blockbusters, and the returns on it would be rather huge. There's also another reason I think it goes right here, which I'll talk about in just a little bit when we get to that series. As of this recording, the only known date for 2022 happens to be May 6th of 2022. This has been confirmed by Kevin Feige and Ryan Coogler to be the follow-up to the Black Panther, simply at this time titled Black Panther 2. Now, while we don't have many details, many are speculating that this is somehow going to finally tie in a universal character, which happens to be Namor the Submariner, as there's been a few Easter eggs in the MCU, and a pretty big one in Avengers Endgame. There's also been some rumors that we could be seeing certain mutants show up in here, one particular one being Storm due to her previous history with the Black Panther, but that's all rumors for now. The next film is July 29th of 2022. This one, again, does not have anything, but if we look at the production time of what's coming up, and the certain turnaround that they like to do on films, to me, this would make sense if this was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, the original also came out in the middle of the summer. I know many people think of Guardians as a May release because of Guardians 2, but if you really think about it, this makes a lot of sense. James Gunn coming back after finishing up, the actual Suicide Squad for DC, going straight into this. If they need a year to a year and a half, this movie right here makes logical sense. Now, after that, that's just the movies. Throughout that year, we're going to see 4 Disney Plus TV series. The first one is going to be Ms. Marvel. Now, Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, will of course be tying into the future of the MCU in pretty significant ways. As her graphic novel is the best-selling this decade, she's the star of the upcoming Marvel's Avengers video game, so right there you can see there is a huge push. They've even said she's a future Avenger, and she will be making appearances in various other things. So Ms. Marvel, look for that more than likely sometime in the spring or summer of 2022. Followed by Moon Knight. Now, Moon Knight to me, I think is an interesting one because we know that they're more or less trying to set up the Midnight Suns. You're already going to have Blade, which I said is coming out in February. Moon Knight perfectly tying into that could be their gateway to get people to watch the darker side of Marvel. Again, this makes some sort of sense if Moon Knight was to come out in fall, so you could tie Blade and his release coming in the summer on physical and digital. Then you have the ending, where of course they can put Mark Spector in, leading directly into his series that comes out in the late summer or fall. After that, we also know that She-Hulk is in development. She-Hulk is going to be something that they said is unlike anything they've done. Now this, of course, you can expect that it's more than likely coming towards the tail end of 2022 and will feature quite a few familiar characters. Most notably will more than likely be the Hulk, as She-Hulk is his cousin. Rumors suggest we could also be seeing a few other familiar faces from the Hulk franchise, but that still remains to be seen. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about one I think is coming either at the end of 2022 or early 2023. This being Marvel Studios' Ghost Rider, as Ghost Rider was cancelled on Hulu to make room for whatever they're doing with Marvel Studios. It's fully my assumption that the Midnight Suns are something that they desperately want out there. Ghost Rider being a core member of this, or the Spirits of Vengeance, pick whichever name you think they're gonna go with, would make some sense to me. And again, that February date could make some sense because people like to put out horror things or darker things around February. So Ghost Rider would be a pretty good pick. Now we go into 2023, and this is where things get pure speculation. First up, February of 2023, we know there's something unknown coming in there. My assumption is going to be this will be Ant-Man 3. Ant-Man 3 is looking to start production in the middle of the summer of 2021, if not into late fall, thus giving it a little bit more of a turnaround time to be able to get the third one out there and really put a polish on it and push them into that bigger box office that they've been trying to but haven't been able to achieve. After that, we go to May of 2023. My assumption right here will be Captain Marvel 2 featuring Nova. Nova has been heavily rumored for the MCU. They've teased him. Captain Marvel being somebody that's very cosmic, dealing with all sorts of threats out there. If the Novas were to show up anywhere, I believe this would be it to test out how the character can be handled by the mass audiences. Of course, there could be a direct tie-in with how the Avengers and nobody showed up to help, on Xandar, so it gives them a little bit of a personal connection to everything that was happening in the previous films. After that, this is just random speculation on my end, of course, but July of 2023, we will see Spider-Man 4. I believe this will happen. I believe they will be able to reach a new deal, and I believe that Spider-Man will be able to bounce back and forth as the same character between multiple franchises, just due to the sheer fact that the multiverse is happening, and I believe Kevin Feige and Sony have it in their best interest to make this work. And what makes me think that? Well, if we look at the response and how everything went with the last time everything fell apart, you can stand to reason that they're going to want to try to play nice before people turn on Sony again. So, logic to me says Spider-Man 4. after Spider-Man 4, I'm going to assume that this year, in 2023 again, we have 4 films, and I'm saying in November of 2023, we get Marvel's Fantastic Four. I think this one will be the one to bookend the year and bring a close to kind of what's been a almost familiar style MCU. You know, you have Ant-Man wrapping it up, you have more Black Panther, you have Guardians wrapping it, and kind of usher in this brand new era of Marvel Studios going into 2024. Fantastic Four would honestly be a perfect bookend to this, and I say November of 2023 because to me, I feel like maybe they should make this a sort of holiday movie since it's the first family of comics, and it wouldn't surprise me if they theme it around something like Thanksgiving or maybe even Christmas to really sell that family aspect. That's just my assumption, but that's what it is. Now, after that, we need to add a few more Disney Plus series because we know, well, Marvel is going to be having a heavy focus on Disney Plus and they're just going to keep on giving us new properties. Now, due to all the previous films that have led up to this, I'm going to say possibly a MCU Thunderbolts TV series would be a good option. Now, of course, we can also expect a few TV series to get renewals. If we look at the past, more than likely Loki does not need a follow-up series. Marvel's What If will keep on living in its own entirety, kind of as something that just keeps on coming back and telling us different what if tales. So if we look at what's come before and what we can expect, I would assume a Moon Knight Season 2, a She-Hulk Season 2, and a Ms. Marvel Season 2 somewhere around 2023, possibly leading into early 2024. Now, speaking of 2024, this is where I think Marvel is going to be in for a huge push on a completely different style of the MCU. I think you're going to see quite a few delays on familiar films such as Captain Marvel 3, Black Panther 3, and the likes, because in 2024, I'm not going to be surprised if we see something like Marvel's X-Men, this being one of the first ones to open up the year and bring us into a new age of Marvel. I'm saying 2024 because 2023 or 2022, if you want to be, I guess fast about it, that's when you introduce the Fantastic Four. They've said that they're looking to introduce them first, so why not do a 1-2 combo? Fantastic Four followed by the X-Men. If you do them back-to-back by bookending 2023 with the Fantastic Four, introducing 2024 with the X-Men, you really say, now it's time to get serious about this. Here is the future of the MCU right here. Of course, both of them having younger casts would probably be a good idea. Now that you have that out of the way, here comes that summer rush. Now, how would you introduce summer? Well, in my opinion, and it's probably a dumb one, but I would do Marvel's Midnight Suns. This make it a big summer blockbuster. I know it's weird, you're having Moon Knight team up with the likes of Ghost Rider, team up with the likes of Blade, but you're really talking about 3 heavy hitters that 2 of them are gonna be on the TV side of things, because I'm presuming Ghost Rider again, teaming up with Blade, having this darker side of the MCU really push into the Hollywood market. You really position this as your biggest film of the year, coming off the back of X-Men. Right there, you've already established a new generation. Now, let's give people something completely different. But then, different is the name of the game, so my prediction would be Doctor Strange 3. Doctor Strange also including him in the likes of Midnight Suns, because of the whole darker element of everything, would kind of make sense to me. But then, spinning out of that into Doctor Strange 3, going on a more personal journey, maybe even him finally coming face to face with Mordo, would kind of be a good idea, honestly. And who knows what you could toss in there, what other characters could even jump in there, and maybe you even bring in some of the Midnight Suns and that magical and darker element into his film to help him out. And since, once again, we're speculating here, why not bookend 2024 with something big? Why not Marvel's Wolverine? We know Wolverine's coming. Could it be a Disney Plus series? Maybe, but he's a billion-dollar character, so why not give us that Marvel Wolverine treatment and give us a standalone film. Bring back one of the Russo brothers, let him go at it solo, give us that film we all want, possibly taking on the Hulk. Who really knows how you would handle it, but the opportunity's here, and I think it would be a good one, and they don't want to waste that. Now we're back at the Disney Plus forefront, and of course, this is going to keep on going, with Nova making his appearance in a previous film. This is when I would spin Nova off. Although I would not do it in a film, I would give Nova a big budget Disney Plus series with Richard Rider and Sam Alexander both starring in this. Now, we're not going to keep talking about shows that get renewed. That's not the point here. I've done that already. The other series I would greenlight because I think enough time has passed and people would finally be willing to give this character a chance would be Marvel's Ironheart. We know there's scripts out there. We know they want to do it. There's even registered pages. It's just a matter of time. Honestly, I would hold off on Ironheart till 2023. 2024 would optimally be a great one. 5 years from now, you put that series out. It's been enough time. You have a whole new crowd that's been, growing up and watching the likes of Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, a little bit more, to diversify the catalog you have out there. Now, going into 2025, well, there's a few things I think are going to happen here. Marvel's Shang-Chi 2. I think that's a given, honestly. Shang-Chi 2021, 2022, when he comes out, when he's in other films, it makes a lot of sense that you probably give it 3 to 4 years. Shang-Chi 2, I believe they're going to do a trilogy out of this one. It would just make a lot of sense with the Asian market and how they're going to approach China. So this is a given that he's going to get a sequel. I would have put that out in February, followed by a big Marvel May release. Now this is back to form. It's been enough time. It's time to put out the big one. Marvel's New Avengers in May of 2025 would honestly be the best thing they could do. Hold off from the Avengers name for a while. Make sure a new generation of kids grows up seeing some of these other characters out there, to really get used to them. You bring back some of the older people that maybe they haven't checked it out in a while, or maybe they have, but they've skipped a few here and there. The Avengers name brings everybody. The reason I would place it in 2025 is very strategic. Let's say somebody skipped the Nova series or Ironheart. Or they skipped the Wolverine movie. Or maybe they didn't watch Fantastic Four because of the previous track record. Or maybe they didn't watch She-Hulk the second season or something. You put all of these characters on the forefront of the new Avengers. There's your moneymaker right there. Because you still unite them with few of the older characters, like Thor, for example, and Mighty Thor. And of course, some other mainstays like Hulk and the new Captain America. After New Avengers, we're going to go into the fall of 2025, and honestly, I would give that summer completely off, nothing after New Avengers, and then come back with Blade 2. Blade 2, I would place maybe in October. We see that is a big blockbuster time now. You can put it there, you can make a lot of money, you create that synergy between Blade and the Halloween season. It will drive box office, and Blade's already going to drive box office, so there's that. And now it's been a while since we've seen these guys at the tail end of 2020. It's time to once again go all out. It's time for the Eternals 2. This one, you've already introduced the X-Men now, you have the Fantastic Four, you're going more cosmic. The Eternals 2, possibly team them up with somebody new from the MCU, maybe even toss in a couple of the Fantastic Four characters, maybe a mutant or two, maybe an Avenger gets tossed in there, maybe they team up with Captain Marvel. But Eternals 2, to keep exploring the history and the different, aspects of the MCU that are much more grandiose, Jack Kirby, and cosmic. And now we got some house cleaning. Let's say 2026. Some guarantees, I would say, are a Black Panther 3, as that is 3 years removed from Black Panther 2, and a Marvel's Fantastic Four 2, which would be only 2 to 3 years removed if we go by my chart. And by that time, you want that to be something that's no more than 3 years apart, because you want that to be something that's very consistent, because again, it's the Fantastic Four. After that, 2027, you got to bring on some more stuff. I would say Captain Marvel 3 to wrap up the trilogy, and Marvel's X-Men 2 Again, this being a sort of 3 to 4 year cycle between X-Men films as they're going to appear in other films makes a lot of sense to me. And then in 2028, I would really focus on something new and crazy and out there. This is when I would do Silver Surfer as a standalone, him and Galactus' origin story, because I would honestly start building up that big aspect towards the tail end of the decade and start transitioning Galactus as the main villain of mid of the 2030s. I know, you're thinking that's far out there, but let's be real. They shouldn't just throw away Galactus in the next Avengers film in like 4 years. That's really kind of a waste. Now, a big one, which I honestly don't know where you place it, which is why I saved it for last here at the tail end after I said everything, is Deadpool. Where does he go? Well, in my mind, this is going to be a core Fox release without having all the Disney logos on it. So to me personally, just if we look at the timetable, I would have this character, his next film in the MCU, that of course ties into the MCU, somewhere around 2023 to 2024, making that one of the first years we have 5 MCU films. So there it is, guys, another one of my prediction videos. I've done like 3 of these previously, and as some of you have pointed out, some of my predictions were on the point, like She-Hulk happening and, you know, some other ones, and some were not. But then again, this is, of course, my prediction video. This time we're almost at 26 minutes. Probably want to cut out a little bit. It won't be there. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and let me know what you think is going to be the upcoming slate for the next 10 years.